Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So we're going over the 11 game MLB DFS slate for today on Draftkings. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, you might as well hit the subscribe button. And we're all season long trying to help you guys become better MLB DFS players. And yes, I know the season is almost over, but I do cover sports as well, including the NFL each and every single week, and NASCAR every single race day. And we do have a race tonight at Bristol, which is one of the best tracks on the entire series. It's also the playoffs, so it should be a pretty entertaining race tonight. So if you want to catch me on my live stream at 5 p.m. Eastern, come in, check it out, ask me some questions, and maybe play NASCAR DFS. I think you'd enjoy it. It's a very fun DFS sport. But yeah, if you're going to keep coming back to the channel each and every single day or each and every single week, you might as well hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I post new videos. If you're going to follow me on social media, my handles are in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And if you want some more content over on Patreon, always much appreciated. We got over 300 members. You can hop into the Discord chat, ask me questions all day, and you get access to all my data sheets as well. So if you're interested, links down below. If not, that's fine. Let's just dive into today's slate. So, very good slate. We got some good options at pitching, and we have the Dodgers in Coors Field once again with an insane total of nearly 8 once again. So you're probably going to want some Dodgers bats for sure. They went off last night, and they're getting a better matchup versus Chichi Gonzalez tonight. So I'd say unload the Dodgers onslaught once again. They should be able to go off. So spending up for pitching might be a little bit difficult, but I do think there's enough value on this slate to be able to get some Dodgers in and spend up a little bit for maybe one SP1. You're not going to go double spend up, that's for sure. Do not play Trevor Bauer and Mike Clevenger today. You're going to be limiting yourself on offense. But I think you might be able to get one of these guys paired with some of the 8K range options. But if you want to go double mid-range with Heaney and Corbin Burns, I think that's fine too. It's probably going to allow you to fit in Bellinger and Mookie Betts if that's what you want to go, because they're both in elite spots tonight. But let's start up top with Trevor Bauer. He's the ace of the slate, 10,800. Now the matchup versus the White Sox, it's not great. They are a pretty good team, but they are better versus lefties, and they're still striking out quite a bit versus righties this season with a 25.7% K rate and only a 7% walk rate. Now the ISO's up there, the average is up there, the WOBA is up there, and the WRC Plus is up there. But Trevor Bauer is an absolutely fantastic pitcher, and he's been one of the best pitchers for DFS purposes all season long. He goes deep into each and every single game. He's been over 100 pitches in every single start this season besides one. And that's because he got capped out at the max innings because the game was a 7-inning doubleheader, and he pitched the 7 innings. In that game, he scored 40.4 DraftKings points. And he's just been insanely good. 32 points, 38 points, 20, then 12 and 16 was kind of a bit of a rough stretch. But then 40, 36, 36, and 36. The guy is just awesome. He's got a 37% K rate this season, a 1.7 ERA paired with a really good 3.11 xFIP, not allowing much hard contact at all, 25%. So, yeah, love Trevor Bauer. He's been great versus lefties. He's been great versus righties. So, I think he's a fantastic option if you got the money for him, despite this not being a great pitcher's park and the matchup's a little rough. But I think the strikeouts will be there. He's just going to have to keep the ball inside the park, which he typically has done so far this season. Mike Clevenger, 10,200. He's not having near as good as a year as he had last season when he had above a 30% K rate and just overall very, very good numbers. But he's coming off 2 strong outings in a row. Now, he played the Rockies and the Giants, and he scored 19 points and 37 points, and he struck out 8 and 7. And we saw his pitch count get up to 100, so the Padres aren't really worried about limiting his pitch count, so that was nice to see. But 10,200, I feel like at that point I'd rather just get up to Trevor Bauer, but I would say the matchup is much softer here versus the Mariners. Now, they are a worse team versus lefties than they are compared to righties. They actually have some decent numbers to righties, but Mike Clevenger is a pretty good pitcher, getting a lot of respect here in Vegas with a 3.35 implied team total. Pretty heavy favorite, 7 strikeouts, and I think he'll be fine here. This season he's got a 24% K rate. I feel like that's going to rise up. I feel like if this was a full season, it would rise closer to the 30% mark. Now, he's going to have 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, which isn't great, and not a lot of ground balls either at 33%, but I think he'll be okay here versus the Mariners. It's a nice spot for him, and he's just a little bit less expensive than Trevor Bauer. I don't think he has the upside as Trevor Bauer these days, but I don't know. They're both fine options. I guess Clevenger gets the overall softer matchup, but I feel more comfortable with Trevor Bauer. But you don't have to play either 2 of these guys. If you want to save some money and go with Heaney and Burns, I think that's fine as well. But anyway, going down to Andrew Heaney, he comes in at like 8,300, and he gets that really soft matchup versus the Texas Rangers, who would typically like to use pitchers against each and every single time they face them. Now, the weird thing is with Andrew Heaney, he's a pretty good pitcher. He's got a good strikeout rate, but the 2 times he's faced the Rangers this season, he struggled. On September 8th, he scored 9.7 points and gave up 5 runs, 3 of those being earned. And then all the way back on August 9th, he scored 1.5 points versus them, only went 77 pitches and gave up 5 runs once again. I think he'll be fine here. Overall, he's a good pitcher, and on paper, this is a fantastic matchup. The Rangers just suck offensively. They only have a 3.3 implied team total. 6.5 strikeouts over in Vegas for Andrew Heaney, and a pretty decently sized favorite as well, as 61% chance for the win. Looking at his numbers this season, a 26% carry, not really walking too many guys. Hard contact rate's almost at 40%, but he's only giving up 0.64 home runs per 9 innings, a 3.98 xFIP, and overall the matchup is just fantastic. Looking at their splits versus lefties this season, about a 25% carry rate. They're not walking a lot at all. 71 WRC plus, and just overall very low numbers. And Heaney, we saw his pitch count up recently. His last 4 starts have been at 104, 117. Then it dipped down to 84, then back up to 98. So we don't have to worry about a pitch count with Andrew Heaney. It's a good matchup on paper. And he's due for a good game versus the Rangers. I mean, they suck offensively, and I can't imagine him struggling 3 times versus them. So I do like Andrew Heaney, probably going to be very popular on this slate. Then Corbin Burnes, 8,000. He's actually having a really, really good season. If I can pull up his game log for you guys. Looking at, these numbers are very good. 23, 41, 28, 35, and then some 15, 16, 11, 23. But the back half of the season, I say back half of the season, it's only been a back half of the season, but the half of the back half of the season has been excellent for Corbin Burnes. And looking at his numbers this season, they all check out. The walk rate's at 11%, but overall he's been really, really good. A 1.98 ERA with a 3.11 xFIP, which is the same as Trevor Bauer's. A 37% carry rate, which is, again, same as Trevor Bauer. Getting a lot of ground balls. Only 0.18 home runs per 9 innings with a 30% hard contact rate. And going up against Kansas City, they're not the worst team in the world, but they do struggle versus righties with a 24% K rate, 8% walk rate, only a 235 batting average, 90 WRC plus, and I think Corbin Burnes is fine here. I like that price tag, and if you want to go Heaney and Burnes today and load up on bats like Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, I have no issue with that at all, because if those guys all go deep, you're going to be looking good at pitcher as long as they have a decent game, even if someone like Trevor Bauer, Clevenger go for 30-plus points, because the guys that rush to them are probably missing out on one of those big bats in their lineup. So there's a couple of ways you can go pitcher today. I think you could go double mid-range. You could go a mid-range and a spend-up. I don't think you go double spend-up. So that's pretty much how pitching is going to go today. I think we'll move on to the bats now at this point, which I don't have a large player pool for you guys. I'm going to try to keep it simple and just mostly target the Dodgers. As you can see, if you look at the matchups, you're going to see a lot of Chichi Gonzalez because I am looking to pick on him. I think I have the entire Dodgers lineup here listed. I might be missing one guy, but absolutely love them tonight. But we'll start up top at catcher with Gary Sanchez at 4,100. I'm assuming Will Smith's not going to be in the lineup. I think it'll be Austin Barnes since Kershaw's on the mound. But if Will Smith happens to be in, you can view him as the top catcher option on the slate. But as of right now, I assume it's going to be Austin Barnes. But Gary Sanchez is fine versus Chris Miles. I mean, the Boston Red Sox pitching staff is just bad. So I think we can feel free to load up on the Yankees. Now, their team total of 5.89 is good, but compared to the Dodgers, it's very low. Like, it's nearly 2 runs lower than the Dodgers tonight. So I obviously much prefer the Dodgers, but the Yankees are a bit cheaper, and that price on Gary Sanchez isn't too bad at 4,100. He's got power versus both sides of the plate, but just know he loves to strike out. Austin Barnes for 300. He's your chalk catcher tonight as long as he's in the lineup. He's only 3,300. He did fine last night, and it's just cheap Dodgers exposure. And for the most part, these guys are super expensive, so anytime you can get a cheap one in your lineup, you should probably do that. So I'd like Austin Barnes at the price point, and I just want as much Dodgers as I can in my lineup with a 7.5 implied team total, which I could see creeping towards 8 as the day goes on. And if you're looking at Chichi Gonzalez's splits this season, if I can pull them up, so far to lefties, he's got over a 200 ISO and a 565 WOBA. To righties, he's been tougher, but he's been bad versus lefties, but we can still certainly use righties versus him. Cody Bellinger, 5,600. I just showed you those numbers versus lefties, and Bellinger's obviously got great power versus righties. Over a 400 on base percentage, only a 14% K rate, and over a 250 ISO. So I don't think I have to explain to you guys why Cody Bellinger is a good play in Coors Field tonight versus Chichi Gonzalez, who's a very below average right-handed pitcher. And then Luke Voit, 5,400, going up against Chris Mossy here. Not a guy with a high strikeout, gives up power at both sides of the plate, and is just not very good. And they have a team total of nearly 6 tonight, and you get the guaranteed 9th inning at bats in Boston. And Luke Voigt's been one of the best players in baseball this season. 469 ISO to lefties and a 311 ISO to righties. High batting average, and overall he's just been fantastic. So I don't mind Luke Voit and Yankee stacks, but for 200 more overall, give me Cody Bellinger. Now, a play I really like here is Nate Lowe, or I think it's Brandon Lau, and then it's Nate Lowe. I think I always get those mixed up, but I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. But Jorge Lopez is not a very good pitcher, and he does struggle with left-handed bats. And the Rays have a team total of 5 here, going up against Baltimore in Camden Yards, so you get the big park boost here for the Tampa Bay Rays. Much better hitting here than it is in Tropicana. And then also you get the guaranteed 9th inning at bats on the road as well. So I definitely don't mind Lowe here. I like that price point, 2,800. So if you want to go low at first base, then you can throw in Bellinger on the outfield. I think it's probably the best way to go to get some salary relief options, because if we're going to want to play Mookie Betts and all these guys, we're going to have to get some salary relief guys, and I really like that price tag on him. If you're looking at his numbers versus righties this season, it's a small sample size, but a 186 WRC plus, a 538 ISO, and a near 800 slugging, so I think he's a fantastic option. Then Brandon Lau, I believe that's how it is. I got the two guys right in a row. But 5,700, he's been great this season. Now, he's actually been better versus lefties compared to righties. But still, I like lefties here versus Jorge Lopez, and I do like the Rays offense on this slate. And they're a decent contrarian stack just to get off the Dodgers and potentially Yankees chalk. Although I feel like the Rays will have some decent ownership as well. But, I mean, there's just some... I mean, the obvious offenses are obvious tonight. You get the Dodgers, you get the Yankees, and then I don't know if the Rays are obvious, but I like some of the prices on some of these guys. Like Yoshi and Nate Lowe, but I like Brandon Lau as well. And then DJ LeMahieu, 5,600, very expensive, but he's an elite contact hitter. He's got pop versus either side of the, not either side of the plate, but versus either handedness of pitcher. But Chris Moss is just not a very good pitcher, and I think we can feel free to use as many Yankees in our lineup as we want. But they are definitely a tick below the Dodgers tonight. And then Gavin Lux, 4,400, he went deep last night, and he's got some decent power versus righties, and this is just getting Dodgers exposure versus Chichi Gonzalez and the Rockies bullpen. They're by far the best team on this slate to use. And Jose Altuve is still pretty cheap at 3,800, going up against Luke Weaver, who will give up power to either side of the plate. And Jose Altuve, I mean, I know he's not been great this season at all. It's been a running joke on Twitter of how bad he's been, but looking at the numbers this season versus righties, 54% ground ball rate, only a 5% walk rate, 19% fly ball rate, 245 batting average, and overall just very low numbers. But I still think he's fine at the price, and I do have a team 12 over 5 on this slate. Then dropping out of third base, I'm pretty sure you're just going to be using a Dodger here. You could use Arenado versus a lefty, but it is Kershaw, so I'm not really looking to use many Rockies tonight at all, just because there's a really good pitcher on the mound. But I got three Dodgers bats here: Max Muncy, Justin Turner, and Edwin Rios. Edwin Rios is probably going to be one of the more popular plays on the entire slate at that price tag. He did fine last night, but Muncy, he's got power versus righties. I don't really have to go too in-depth here, guys. Justin Turner, another Dodgers bat. I'd prefer go with Muncy because you get the lefty and righty matchup, and Turner is better versus lefties compared to righties, but either of these guys are fine. If you can't get up to 5,500 for Muncy, you can save $400 with Justin Turner. But I think the best way to go is probably Edwin Rios, because I think if you're playing low at first base, which you don't have to, but if you are, you can go cheap at third base as well with Edwin Rios, and you can spend up for like Bellinger, Betts, and then Corey Seager at other positions tonight. But definitely like Edwin Rios, 3,300, looking at his numbers versus righties this season in a smaller sample size, but a 265 ISO and your 400 on base percentage, I think he is a fine option, especially in Coors Field in the best lineup tonight at 3,300. Should be very, very popular. Corey Seager, 5,300, he's my favorite play on the slate. Shortstop is not that great of a position tonight. Trevor Story is facing a lefty in Coors, but that lefty happens to be Clayton Kershaw, so I think we can kind of cross him off our list for cash games. But Corey Seager, it's pretty much Corey Seager and Gleyber Torres tonight, the only guys I have interest at shortstop, and Corey Seager's, I mean, even if shortstop was deep, he'd probably be my favorite play on the slate. He's just been so good versus righties this season, and this is a premium position tonight. And he's in Coors Field, and he's facing a righty, and not a very good one either. That's giving up over a 500 WOBA to lefties this season. But looking at Seager splits versus righties, about a 400 ISO, 440 WOBA, 348 on base percentage, a 180 WRC plus, a 340 batting average, and just overall very good numbers. So love Corey Seager. He's pretty much my favorite play on the slate. Then Gleyber Torres is there if you want some exposure to the Yankees and Yankee stacks. But I do really like Corey Seager on this slate. Then going down to the outfield, we have the obvious option in Mookie Betts. You could also throw Cody Bellinger in the outfield as well. He comes in at 6,100. I think he scored 32 points last night. He had a homer, he had a triple, and I forget what else he did, but he was fantastic, and I think that's probably going to happen once again. He's been crushing righties this season. His numbers versus lefties have been actually very, very poor, but to the righties, a 724 slugging, a 340 batting average, a lot of fly balls, a near 400 on base percentage, a 463 WOBA, and a near 400 ISO. So Mookie Betts, projection-wise, is going to be the top play on the slate. And if you can fit him in, which I'd probably recommend trying to do, I think you should. Even in cash games at that expensive price point. Then Aaron Judge, 5,200, he's there for Yankee stacks. I pretty much just love all the Dodgers. And then if you want the Yankees, they're pretty much fine in GPPs. But definitely prefer the Dodgers over the Yankees tonight. But that does come at a cost. But Aaron Judge has power to both sides of the or I always keep wanting to say that for the bats versus either handedness of pitcher, and Chris Moss is just not a very good pitcher. So definitely like Aaron Judge if you're stacking up the Yankees. Chris Taylor's there for Dodger stacks. He's getting pretty pricey at nearly $5K, but he's been fine this season versus righties. He's got a 287 batting average versus the lefties. He's actually struggled a little bit with a 195 batting average. But look, it's just Coors Field exposure. I wouldn't say he's my favorite play on the slate, but he's fine at second base or the outfield. Aaron Hicks, 3,900, just cheaper Yankees exposure. Looking at his numbers versus righties this season, 189 ISO is a little gross, 200 batting average is a little gross as well. Actually been better versus the lefties, but look, I like all the Yankees here versus Chris Mazza. Michael Brantley, 3,900. I'd say it's a pretty good side relief option if you're looking at his numbers versus righties this season. It's pretty much typical Michael Brantley things. He is striking out a bit more than he was last year or the past couple of seasons combined, but still near 340 batting average, a 171 WRC plus, over a 400 WOBA, and just overall very, very good numbers. So I don't mind Michael Brantley. Avisel Garcia, 3,100, going back up to lefty here. If looking at his numbers versus lefties this season, they've actually been very, very strong with a 511 on base percentage, a 371 batting average, 22% walk rate, and a 230 ISO. So definitely like Avisel Garcia at only 3,100. Then Yoshi, not sure how to say his last name, but he's got an awesome first name in Yoshi. I mean, why wouldn't you want to play a guy named Yoshi? But I do like the Rays tonight. He's going to be leading off here. If you're looking at his numbers versus righties this season, I wouldn't say they're fantastic, but over a 200 ISO is pretty good. A 303 WOBA. Batting average is very low, but I think he's a fine option here versus Jorge Lopez, who's just not that great of a pitcher. So definitely like Yoshi at only 2,800 is a nice side relief option along with his teammate Nate Lowe. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure you leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate it. You can check out my NFL content if you want, and you can check out my NASCAR DFS content as well. And I'll be going live tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern if you have some questions for me. But I'm going to leave you guys with that. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy the fights tonight. Enjoy the race tonight. And then we'll get ready and build some lineups for the NFL starting tomorrow. So very excited. It should be a very fun weekend.